Hey, friendo, Steve here. Welcome back to my It's not GFW anymore. It's Impact Reviews. I have to remember to say Impact Reviews. There's no Larson here. He's not editing here. He's not doing anything here today. It's just me. He doesn't watch Impact Wrestling. Too bad for him, but I do. Good for you. Anyways, this week kicked off with like a Pro Wrestling Noah package. They're doing this thing where Eli Drake had a match against Cody Hall for the Impact Championship over there in Pro Wrestling Noah. Cody Hall, you guys might know, is Scott Hall's son. He's, from what I understand, he's kind of a jobber, so they're doing that again. But I think it's cool. But anyways, yeah, so it's sort of leading up to like Eli Drake being in Japan and Eddie Edwards also being in Japan. He has a match against Marufuji over there. But anyways, back in the Impact Zone, Konnan and LAX came out to the ring. Konnan keeps insisting that OVE, the current tag champions that LAX will be facing at Bound for Glory, are meth heads. It's a joke that I find funny, and it tickles me whenever Konnan refers to them as tweakers or meth heads or trailer parks or whatever. Kind of makes me laugh. Anyways, OVE comes out to basically accept LAX's challenge of a 51-50 street fight for Bound for Glory. I'll put my notes right here. Let's see if it'll stay. It's not staying. Doesn't want to stay. There we go. And it's kind of humorous. Konnan says, "Do you even know what a 51-50 street fight is?" And OVE says, Nobody knows what it is, man. I don't know what it is, but I think we're gonna be good at it. And then this is kind of cool. Diamante, the female in LAX, who I never really see fight. She just sort of hangs out with them. She goes up to OVE and she slaps one of the dudes in the face, and then he shoves her. They let him shove a woman. Ooh. And that led to LAX just destroying OVE. It was actually a pretty cool spot. They did sort of this draping cutter RKO type thing. They had one of the Chris brothers draped on the top turnbuckle, and they laid down a couple chairs and then put him through that. It looked really nasty. It was really cool. And then they laid a table out on the outside and threw the other Chris brother from the inside to the outside onto the table. It was pretty rad. I thought it was a great way to sort of build this match a little bit for Bound for Glory. So that was cool. Back to Pro Wrestling Noah. Eddie Edwards was signing a contract for his fight against Marufuji. He said he respected him. Eli Drake cut a really awkward promo on Cody Hall. I'm not going to say it was really awkward. Sometimes he never stutters, but sometimes Eli Drake will like lose himself a little bit, and then he sort of finds himself again, and you can kind of tell when that happens. But he's still strong. I still like him on the mic. And hey, they got him out there doing their thing out there in Noah and AAA and all sorts of places. So good for him. Hopefully he's making some money off that. They had a really long recap. This episode is really short on the actual wrestling. Wasn't a lot of action. I think there was like 3 matches, one of which was a squash match. There wasn't a lot of actual wrestling happening in like a 2-hour show. It's kind of a problem. There's a lot of recaps. Speaking of which, they recapped Moose last week going to the American Top Team facility and getting beat up and thrown out. And then Rosemary came down to the, going back to the Impact Zone. Rosemary comes down. And she has a match against somebody named Hannah Harper, who I had never seen before, but she got squashed easily by Rosemary, like immediately. Rosemary then calls out Taya Valkyrie. Taya Valkyrie comes out, and they sort of stare down each other. And as Rosemary sort of turns away to load up, I guess, on her red mist, who she was going to spray Taya with it, as she came back around, Taya sprayed her with red mist, then hit her with her Road to Valhalla finisher, and stood tall over Rosemary. I imagine that means they're going to have a match either at the next Impact tapings or at the next episode of Impact or at Bound for Glory, which is coming up in just a couple of weeks here. Moose, he's on the phone with a mystery person, and he says, "You're damn right I'm going back there to American Top Team, and you're going to come with me, right?" And we don't know who the mystery person is, although I accidentally spoiled it for myself by looking at spoilers. Next up, back in the Impact Zone, Taryn Terrell comes out. She's wearing underwear again. That's just kind of her gimmick. She wears underwear. She cuts a decent promo, though. Like, she doesn't stutter at all. She's fully within her character, and her character really fits with her. I get the feeling that her character is kind of what WWE was going to go for with either the Emelina thing, or they were talking about bringing back, I think, like Kelly for something along these lines. Kind of like a throwback to the old Playboy Divas style thing that they had going on in the mid-aughts that nobody liked. And they were going to turn that on its head. But Taryn Terrell, she cuts a decent promo. So she cut a promo on Gail Kim. Gail Kim comes out. She's really awkward on the mic, but she slapped the crap out of Taryn, which made up for it. So, they went at it. They're going to have a match at some point. Or I know they're all going to be involved in that Fatal 5-Way at Bound for Glory for Sienna's title. Speaking of which, they booked a really weird, and they even on the broadcast, they said this is a very random matchup. It was a mixed tag match, 2 guys, 1 gal on each side, Sienna, Tejano, and Caleb Conley. So 3 different storylines going, some of the players from 3 different storylines all together on a match versus, oh crap, who is it? James Storm, Desmond Xavier, and Allie. Again, all from various parts of the Impact universe. They all came together. Sienna, so the heels cut a promo first backstage with McKenna, I don't know what her name is. And Sienna's pretty cool because I think Sienna's my favorite wrestler there because she just does what she does. And she has Cam, her cousin, behind her the whole time, and he's egging her on, and she's really good. And she just tells the guys just to stay out of her way, which I thought was really cool. She was talking about throwing Allie around, and I don't know, she just commands the screen whenever she's on it. So I like Sienna. I think she's good. Anyways, that led to the actual match itself. It was kind of cute. Before the match, James Storm tried to give Allie a sip of his beer. It was Budweiser, whatever he's carrying around. Allie said no, but she was tickled by it. It was kind of cool too because at one point Sienna was totally fighting. Somebody tagged her. She got tagged in after somebody, probably James. No, I don't know who it was. She started fighting. I think she started beating up on Caleb Conley or something. And it was cool because they were technically Allie's supposed to be tagging in right now, but Sienna doesn't care. She's even said she'd fight men in the past. So I don't know. I thought that was cool. I think Sienna, letting Sienna sort of not give a shit and be totally cool to just beating up on guys and then actually seeing her do it, I think is kind of cool. I think it's kind of neat. But anyways, James Storm ended up picking up the win with his last call super kick on Caleb Conley. So yeah, the faces went over. After that, we had another one of those cheesy Global Forged segments where they have this one I actually really liked. So Global Forged is where they're trying to a talent contest base. It's kind of like their version of Tough Enough or original NXT, where they go out and they recruit young wrestlers who don't have a lot of experience or trainees or whatever that they see a lot of potential in, and then they sent them to this John Boland's pro wrestling school. And it was cool. It was a really short segment, but it showed him yelling at one of the students, and he's sort of teaching him about building up your confidence in the ring so that a smaller guy could believably beat a bigger guy. And it was a really small bit, but I thought it was really cool. It was really well done. One thing Impact has, apparently in vast numbers, are good editors. Their entire show is actually really, really well put together. And even the stuff, I forgot to mention this. They kept on going back to the Pro Wrestling Noah stuff. That aspect, I mentioned this before here on the review show of Impact Wrestling. I actually really, really like the idea of a company that has kind of its central location and then goes out and has matches in other promotions and then brings that footage and that feel of that other promotion to the central programming, which I think might have been Jeff Jarrett's concept with the GFW thing, just sort of piggybacking matches in other promotions and then sort of conglomerating in one place. I mean, it seems like it's a cheap way to get some kind of relatively interesting stuff, because you get to spotlight a bunch of different promotions and their style of doing things. The problem with Impact is when they do that, they generally, so far anyways, I mean, they showed one actual match with Eli Drake and the kid from AAA, but then when they showed the OVE match from the Crash, I believe, they just showed highlights and it was stylized in slow motion. So if they did that with actual matches where they would actually show you the entire match, that I think could work. I think that would actually, that's pretty cool. That's one aspect of Impact that's different from WWE. And I think for me, it's effective. And I understand it's just a cheap way to get more, product on your 2-hour show. But I think it's an effective way of doing it. It's an effective way of filling up time and showing wrestling from, a whole different promotion. And they're lining up with quality promotions. I mean, Pro Wrestling Noah is good. The Crash, I like what they have going on so far. AAA is kind of, whatever. But I don't know. I think it's a cool way of doing things. And if they keep on expanding out to other territories and bringing in footage from all those other places and incorporating Impact players there, I think that'd be kind of cool. That's just me. I think that's a neat way of doing things. But anyways, back to the show. Next up, we're in the Lax Clubhouse, which are always my favorite segments. They're playing dominoes instead of working out or anything. They drink a lot of beer, seemingly. And Conan made a point of saying, the good thing is by the time Bound for Glory shows up or it comes around, Homicide's going to be back with us because apparently he wasn't there for that round of tapings. And they all do a salute to Homicide. And apparently, I forgot to mention this earlier, but a 51-50 street fight match apparently just means like all of LAX is going to be fighting OVE. So pretty much it's just a really, really massively handicap match. Ooh, caught the phone. After that, we saw Moose's mystery friend, STEPHAN Bonnar, the American Psycho himself from the UFC. He was one of my favorite dudes. I always loved STEPHAN Bonnar. Anyways, he shows up with Moose, and he's got a giant lead pipe, and Moose has a baseball bat. So they're about to F some S up over at the American Top Team, but it's like late at night, so nobody's going to be there. Before they get to that, though, they finally get to the main event, which is Johnny Mundo versus Garza Jr., and they're fighting for the number one contendership for Eli Drake's world title, which the match will go down in Bound for Glory. The great thing about this is that they cut to footage of Eli Drake looking at an iPad, and they said, look at him, he's watching all the way from Japan. He's watching this match to see who he's going to be fighting at Bound for Glory. But I'm just thinking, did they just get some footage of him watching like Arrested Development on an iPad or something while he's in the locker room? Because it was pretty funny. It's just, there's no evidence. They didn't show the iPad to show that he was actually watching this match. But again, you have to kind of praise the promotion for having the foresight of saying, hey, let's get some footage of you looking at an iPad so it'll look like you're looking at this match as it happens, tying everything together. Again, I'll reiterate, for all the faults that Anthem might have as a company in terms of how they run Impact and, what's going on with them, and, you hear all sorts of stuff, the GFW debacle, the actual production of the show, piecing together 2 hours of wrestling, or an hour and 40, whatever it is, and all these weaving storylines, they do a pretty good job piecing it together into a coherent program. So I don't know. I just think that if they can start actually making some money, if they can start building up their fan base, then they'll be on some more solid footing. It's just they need to find a way to bring in money. They need to find a way to really generate some buzz with pro wrestling fans, and I think the best way to do that is through actual wrestling. Speaking of which, they also did a promo where it showed Alberto Del Rio is going to be back for Bound for Glory. I mean, he's under contract. They might as well use him. I just hope I don't know, man. I don't think I don't think he's the answer in terms of like spotlighting people to get ratings. I just don't think that he's the answer. But, I don't know. Let's see here. The Johnny Mundo versus Johnny Mundo versus Garza Jr. This was a really good match. This was a really, really fun match. There is suicide dives and all sorts of crazy moves. Johnny Mundo, of course, is a great wrestler. They call him Johnny Impact. I'm not going to do that. Johnny Mundo and Garza Jr., they're both really, really fun wrestlers to watch. It's a very physical match, and they gave it a lot of time, probably like 15, 20 minutes maybe. There was a really great sort of roll-up sequence that was much quicker and much more interesting than the one we saw with Dolph Ziggler and Bobby Roode at the end of their match at Hell in a Cell recently. This one was a bit more interesting with cooler moves. Anyways, it ended with Johnny Mundo getting the win, getting the roll-up win on Garza Jr. They had sort of a respect handshake, a hug type thing, and then Garza Jr. beat feet. Jim Cornette, the GM, came into the ring. No, he did not show anybody his penis like he did recently on the Bruce Pritchard show, so that's good. He just let Johnny Mundo talk a little bit, and Johnny Mundo was given sort of a generic babyface promo talking about Bound for Glory. And then Chris Adonis comes in, of course, Eli Drake's best friend. He comes in with a big chunk of wood and destroys it over Johnny Mundo's head. But the great thing is when Chris Adonis got in the ring, Jim Cornette said, "Oh my gosh, watch out." And then he just runs away, and then Mundo he doesn't like try to move him out of the way or like push him out of the way or anything. He just says, "Oh my God, watch out," right as it's happening. It was pretty comical. And so Chris Adonis lays out Johnny Mundo with a giant piece of wood. People start chanting, "Fire him." And I'm like, no, man, Chris Adonis is great. I love that guy. And then at the very end, they cut back to STEPHAN Bonnar and Moose. and they go to American Top Team facility, and nobody's there except for like the front desk lady, which I don't even know why she's there because nobody else is there. And they just start destroying not everything, but the stuff that they sort of set up to destroy. There's like a trophy case with all the titles in it, and they destroy that, and they steal the titles, and then they go to the merch stand or the merch store area, and they knock down that shelf. They don't really do too much damage. It's just they leave sort of a black eye on the American Top Team facility. Moose takes off. He steals some socks out of the merch store, and then they leave. I don't know. I thought it was pretty entertaining. I'll be honest. I thought it was kind of a cool episode of Impact. There wasn't really a lot of wrestling. There was too many recaps, but that's what the fast forward button's for. So I think this would have been a really, really good 1 hour episode of Impact. It was just beefed up with a bunch of filler from a bunch of other stuff. But that's what you got to do when you don't have that much material to work with. So I don't know. I'm probably going to get Bound for Glory. I might even live stream my reactions. I don't know. I don't know if anybody wants to see that. Is anybody going to be watching Bound for Glory while I'm watching Bound for Glory? I don't know. But anyways, that's it for the Impact review. And until next time, I'll talk to you guys later.